So let's talk a little bit about copyright and plagiarism. This is actually a presentation that was shown to art teachers at a conference, and it was put on by Scholastic's art competition. And this competition is one that we participate in at our school. And they just wanted to show some examples of plagiarism and copyright infringement. So I want to share a few of those with you today. This is a really famous example, kind of a recent example of copyright infringement. And this was done by, the poster on the left was done by artist Shepard Fairey, who is a graphic artist, also a graffiti artist, really well known and does amazing work. However, he was sued for this poster that he created for the Obama campaign called Hope. It's a very recognizable poster. It was very famous and widely used at the time. But the photographer that took this picture claimed that this poster was way too close and that it was a copy of his original photograph, which Shepard Fairey claimed was not, but later admitted that he lied and actually it was. So he actually traced over this photograph, and these pictures are just not different enough from each other. It's very obvious that it stems from the original photograph. So in turn, he was sued for plagiarism and copyright infringement. So you have to be really careful, especially as a graphic designer, especially when you're creating artwork for companies or things that are going to be in public. You really, really have to make sure your artwork is original. And that's why we always encourage you to take your own photographs whenever possible. Because it is really nice sometimes to have a photograph to draw over top of, but you have to make sure it's an original photograph. So that's just a very famous example. Here's another example, and this is a famous sculptor named Jeff Koons, and he had copyright infringement because this sculpture of his was taken from this photograph that Art Rogers took in 1985. 3 years later, Jeff Koons made a sculpture from it, but it was not his photograph. So it was way too close to the photograph and kind of copying the photograph. So, you can copyright in different mediums as well, or copyright infringe in different mediums. And then this was just blatant plagiarism from a student who submitted this as their Scholastic piece, but it was found online and it was someone else's work. So they just submitted it as their own work. Here's another example of a piece submitted to Scholastics that was just way too close to the original. These two images are pretty much the same image, same concept, with a couple like color differences and maybe a few stylized differences, but way too close in concept to be considered original artwork. And anything done from a picture of a celebrity, especially in Scholastics, they will disqualify that right away because they're assuming you got the picture of the celebrity off of line. Now, this could be different because maybe you went to a concert and took your own photograph. That's different. But even though this is a beautiful pencil drawing and rendition of Jimi Hendrix, this would not be accepted and is too close to the original photograph. It's an obvious copy of the photograph. So that's not allowed as well. Celebrity drawings from photographs of celebrities. Really, the photographer owns the rights to those. And then we get into instances. This was a piece submitted to Scholastics that was it was allowed after some deliberation, but they had seen a lot of other images like it online. This one in the end was allowed because there's multiple birds inside of a rib cage kind of moving around. Here's the originals that they were calling into question. It just was a common theme that was popular online. So in the end, they allowed this one, but it is maybe not original enough because it has been seen a lot online. So keep that in mind too. You want to try to be original with your ideas. Here was a drawing submitted to Scholastics, and it was a really nice drawing, but they took it from a photograph that was on Instagram or some other site like that. So it wasn't their own photo, so that's not allowed. And then finally, this beautiful color pencil drawing that probably took so long for the artist to create was submitted, but it's just a copy of this poster. And so that's obviously a blatant infringement on copyright. So that's not allowed as well. Just a few other things here. that are way too close for comfort. This was a whole portfolio of work based off of Dracula that was flagged during judging because it was taken from an old movie in the stills within the movie. So if you look here, here's the work that they drew, and then it was taken from different parts of the movie, which are technically, they do not belong to the student. So that is not allowed either, unfortunately. And just be really careful not to copy things that you see like on Pinterest. Make it your own, make sure it's completely an original idea. And then finally here, this one was allowed and this one is not considered copyright infringement or plagiarism, even though you'll see recognizable characters. These ones are making like a comment on these characters, and they are considered fair use and acceptable because they're critiquing work or people that are already there, or they're a parody or like almost like a comedy of something that's already there. If you think in terms of like, have you heard of Weird Al Yankovic's work where he makes fun of songs that already exist, like Gangster's Paradise, he turns to Amish Paradise. Those kind of things are allowed because they're called parody. But I would be very careful when doing something like this. I don't know a whole lot about this, so I would just be careful and really look into the rules and laws when it comes to parody and what is considered a parody or not.